it's Paulie here. Yeah, just thinking of strange army things. So long ago, I was in the Army Reserve. I was in university and needed a way to pay my way through. Plus, I was a war gamer, and I didn't want to be one of those people who just, banged on about something but never actually put in the hard yards and did it. There seemed to be so few people willing to actually, put the effort in. So I did it. Put my tour in. And it was just peacetime job soldiering. But I've carried a pack and lugged M60s and fired off tank guns and had a sodding miserable time. And the army and I were definitely never meant to be friends. Anyone that kind of exerts authority over me pays for it in terrible ways. And that actually went true for most of us because the Australian Army at that stage, I don't know if it's, I think it might not still be, but at that stage in the 80s, it was full of there was still that kind of larrikin organisation that you'll see in your World War II movies and so on. We're a bunch of bastards, bunch of thieves, bunch of comedians, fabulous stuff, and this is how we lived. So when you join the army, you actually at that stage had to do an intelligence test. You do a list of the things that you have as interests and hobbies. So I was a horse rider and so on. I came from the country, and I was joining a light horse regiment, which are armoured regiments. I'm a tank fanatic, so I wanted to join the armour. Okay, so I put in, I'm a sabre fencer, and I'm a horse rider and so on. The guy signing up says, I reckon you trained for the wrong wars, mate. Kind of turns out I didn't, because what would happen in these light horse regiments is that the higher-ups would let their mouths live a life of their own, and someone would say, oh, you can provide a whole bunch of horse riding soldiers to magnificently lead off Anzac parades and so on. It's, of course we can, we're a light horse regiment. And then we'd get close to the day and they'd sort of, oh my god, what have we done? So they'd flick through the records and find, wait, there'd be a couple like me, and there were some small kind of colonial period little tiny country units that were kind of technically part of the same regiment, like the Karangamite light horse and so on. The rock country, there'd be a couple of guys that could ride a horse and draw a saber without taking the horse's ear off. So you'd be in there like doing your 30-50 cal gunnery course or your radio course or something, and these little figures wearing their hats would lean in, whisper, come on. Excuse me, are you the one that can ride horses? Says, yes. Oh, thank God, quick, come here, we need you. So they would mount us up on horses from the police force, and as we were getting ready to mount, this very pissed off RSM turned up and he handed each of us, I think it was something like $4.70. It's like, what's this for? He's looking, just handing it over. Turns out there was a obscure reg still on the books that said anytime someone served mounted on a horse, they get beer money. They had to have money for a couple of beers while their horse is being watered. These guys had to phone forward and try and organise for some old, pubs on the way to agree to have horse troughs available and have the bar available so we could all have a beer, because that had been left on the books from about 1925 when the last of these regiments handed their horses in. So reserves, you're in your unit for quite a few months before they finally get around to sending you off on recruit course. So we've all been in the army for 6 months, and then you go through recruit training, whatever. And they had some moments. One of my favourites, and here's one for the here's one for my viewers who've been officers. I know you're out there. Yes, the saluting trap. We would hide a large number of privates behind a building, and you're watching some officer, preferably one that's vaguely irritated you, but anyone will do. And like, oh, good, he's come across the quadrangle, so I'd be there like counting it off. Okay, yeah, tap one gun, go. And one guy starts walking off towards the officer, and you count 1, 2, 3. Hit the next guy on the shoulder. Go. You launch this spaced group of soldiers off towards this officer who's just walking along, and of course as the soldier approaches the officer, it's up goes the salute, and as you draw next to each other, the private puts his hand down and goes on, but the officer's got his armor. Oh, there's another guy approaching him, and he's just in the range where if you put your hand down for a new salute, you'd be kind of a bit late. So there's that moment of indecision. Oh, he leaves it up. But as this guy passes him, there's another one coming, and you're just launching. And the idea is to keep this guy's hand up in a salute as long as you can, and you're getting creative. Oh, hang on, he's turned aside, he's going up another path. You're launching another stream of guys up this other path. Okay, oh, hang on, he's heading down the parade ground. Quick, run after the guys that they've just gone past him. Curve them round. And it was just anarchy for the sake of anarchy. You go on this wonderful exercises with the Yanks, and fucking with the Yanks is an ancient Australian Army tradition. They're charming people, very fit young leopards with the brains of ants, and they would believe virtually anything because they had this idea that we were bushmen, deeply in tune with our environment. And yeah, on that score, oh dear, my personal terrible habit was I'd take a electric toothbrush, which actually had batteries in the handle, but it's got a long power cord with the little power plug with the 2 tines on the end of it. And when it's time to bivvy up for the evening, all these Americans are setting up their bedding, and you walk through them with this electric toothbrush in one hand, and you just jam the tines of the power plug into the bark of one of the trees, boonk, and then turn the toothbrush on, and then just brush your teeth while everyone looks at you in mystified silence. And then you'd say, whisper, and you could sometimes hear some American call, see, water flows up trees, there's a current, there's like a piezoelectric current. That's a level of environmental awareness we need you people to get. These people know their environments. You'd get some warrant officer just looking at you, like, you prick, you absolute prick. I knew. My truest day of magnificence in the army, they decided, oh, hey, you've got the university education or whatever. Hey, we'd love you to do officer training. We'd love you to go and be an officer. It's like, what's involved in that? And I couldn't do it. It's like, it's not part-time. It's basically a full-time job. You're having to spend I think it was 2 weeks out of every month full-time, at the officers' college training. It's like, no. I'm doing a degree here. I'm actually studying for a real thing. I'm just in the Army Reserve to be able to survive, university because it's a great way of getting a wage. No, not doing this. Oh, go and do this. There's a leadership aptitude testing day. Just go along for this anyway. It'll do you good. Do me good how? It's paid. Oh, it is? So I turned up, because I was going to get a couple $100 for turning up. Now what happened is there's all these groups that put you in groups of 7 or 8, and they're just collapsing because every idiot in it's this young Napoleon that's trying to, convince all of these observers and umpires that they truly have leadership capabilities. Like, oh, wankers. And like myself and a couple others just wanted to be out of there. But what they had was these physical tests that they were giving you. So the first one, memorably, it was 2 parallel wooden walls just made from plywood, really, and on supports, with some pretty heavy beams across the top, but they're probably about parallel and a yard apart, and they were just sunk into this sort of sand pit. And the guy running the test comes up, and he's given you a 14-foot long piece of telephone pole, probably a couple of shorter ones, which are about 9 foot long, a bunch of ropes, and a bag of rocks. And they said, all right, so the job here is you've got to get the bag of rocks to the other side of these 2 walls without touching the top of the walls. And I said, fantastic, and I threw the bag of rocks over the wall. The guy retrieves the rocks and says, no, okay. Imagine they're delicate radio parts, and you can't just do that. So you've got to get them to the other side of the wall, soft landing, and you've got to get all the people to the other side of the wall. Also, you can't go around it. Just imagine this kind of extends infinitely off. And yes, there's an alarm on the top, so you're not allowed to touch the wall. So, right, that's fine. How long we got? Half an hour. I turned to everybody. Quick, everybody, just trust me on this one. Everyone, pick up the big telephone pole. Pick it up now. Back up about 20, 30 feet. Level it at the wall, okay? Now, go, charge, battering ram, go, yeah! And the guy running the test runs, stop, what are you doing? So I said, well, we're going through. You can't break our wall. I said, what? Why not? What? I said, look, you can't break our wall, okay? Do not break the wall. fine. You keep moving the goalposts. All right, so it was in soft sand, so they must have wanted you to build some kind of weird trapeze or, whatever, but it was soft sand, so I just dug the sand out, so I just passed everything under it. And there's another one along a sloping hill, which led down to a wooden bridge, and they said, okay, so there's mines all through this area. You've got to get everyone over the bridge, but first you've got to test for mines, and you've got to make sure that the whole area is clear of mines. There's a car park at the top, and dotted around this are a bunch of 44-gallon drums, inevitably painted army green, which they're using as rubbish bins, but the lids were still there, which you can clamp on. They were just all sort of stacked over my garage. So, wait, and there's a hose. So I just thought, right, tip all the rubbish out of the rubbish bins. We're going to fill them full of water, clamp the lids on, ding, 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 and we're just going to roll them one after another down the hill, and they will clear a path through their mines. And again, the guy sort of sees doing, what are you doing? He says, clearing a path through the mines. You can't use the rubbish bins. They're in the area. You said we could use any of the tools given or anything in the area. This is clearly the way to clear a path through these mines with your absolute zero danger or trouble. And they actually sort of had to do a discussion. Has no one ever done this obvious thing? They just take the tools you put in their hand. They don't reach out and use what's like around them. All right, yes. Don't tip the rubbish out of the rubbish bins, but all right, we'll presume you've done it. My favourite one was they had like probably about a 20-foot wide trench, and this trench is only about 6 inches deep, and they've got some concrete islands scattered on. And they gave us our bag again, said this is full of radio parts, frangible, breakable radio parts. You've got to get this to the other side. And they give us a whole bunch of boards and some strips of wood. So the Boy Scouts immediately start like trying to lash these bits of wood together to make longer bridges that'll go from one island to another, because these guys have said, imagine that this trench is full of water and there's piranhas in the water, okay? So, you've got half an hour to get across. So, making bridges. Looking at the time, it's running. So I just, as it gets to the last couple of minutes, I just turn to these other guys and said, hey, son, would you be proud to die for your country? He's like, what? Oh yeah, I'll be proud to die for your country. Good. I just pushed him in, lie in there, and you run over the top of him. And I just made this progressive bridge of these people who just ran in and hurled themselves down. And then I ran over the top of them holding the bag and jumped over the other end. Ta-da! The job is done. Yeah, they were really unhappy about this whole performance, really unhappy. So, you get into this thing. Other stuff happens, like you get for lunch, and this guy just sits down next to lunch you've never seen before. It's like, oh, hi, guys. Yeah, so you're from the other group, and you're doing this, and you're doing, fantastic. And it's like, so how are you joining the army? What's your motivation for being in the army? It's pretty good. Are you enjoying it? And there's it's pretty good. So, well, I'm just getting my way through, and I'm having, today's pretty interesting. So what's it like being a psych officer? And the guy gets up and leaves the table because he's supposed to be undercover, and how do they know he's a psych officer? Oh yeah, rando stranger starts asking me questions, about, so how do you feel your relationship with your mother? Well, let me tell you about my mother. But you go into they have a debriefing afterwards, and these guys are really really about me, and they're like, look, we have some questions. On the first test, were you actually going to break our wall? Was I actually going to break your wall? Of course I was. What? You gave me a battering ram and 6 healthy young idiots to wield it. We didn't give you 6 people. It was a team with 6 other people in it. What? Yeah, whatever. They picked it up when I told them to, didn't they? Scribble, scribble, scribble. So many years later, a friend of mine was in the regular army, but he was going through, they clear out psych records. They only keep them a few years. But he phoned me up and said, hi, says, we're discarding records. I've just found your psych records from the army. He said, oh, that must be a joyous read. I said, oh yeah. You went for some kind of leadership potential training day, didn't you? I said, oh yeah, I remember that day. I said, I have the report in front of me. Shall I read it to you? I says, please do. So he starts to read this thing. Oh my God. It says something like, Team 3. It says, Team 3 Upon watching the disorganization in other groups, Team 3 decided to declare itself to be organized as a democracy. This democracy was an absolute farce because it was both proposed by and entirely orchestrated by Kid. And it said Kid proved to be an entirely manipulative individual. And amongst his tactics were, if Kid's idea was not immediately adopted by the group, he would keep the group talking for long enough that time ran out and the only option was to adopt Kid's idea. If individuals proved themselves to be problematic, Kid would make them engage themselves in a complex task that wasted their time, while he took the rest of the group off and conducted his own plan to solve the problem. During the course of solving these problems, Kid showed a breathless disregard for army property, chain of command, and the lives of those around him, seeming perfectly happy to manipulate people to his own ends, and just ended with, "This individual is insidious and should be watched." It's like, I'm so proud of that. Insidious. Oh my. So anyway, folks, that is a tiny itty-bitty taste of the army that was. I think it's gone now. Lord bless it, but may its memory live on. Anyway, cheers.